We have 4 big stories to break down today. Learn all the latest developments surrounding Matheus Franca, the 19-year-old wonder kid we are hoping to sign this summer to add to our first team. To move on, we have updates around Christian Pulisic as well as Diogo Costa, and Pochettino takes over in his first training session. So tons of things to break down, discuss. I feel like this month is going to be very exciting. Not only are we waiting for new signings and additions to get made, but pre-season starts. We can finally start to watch our team play and most importantly, see how we play differently under Mauricio Pochettino. So if you guys want to stay tuned to all things pre-season, news and all that good stuff, then my friends, subscribe to BlueLionsTV and like this video. Without wasting any more time, so what went down in Cobham today? As we can see, Mauricio Pochettino and his staff are taking their first training sessions since being announced by our club. And of course, pre-season's now starting. There's going to be tons of endurance work, fitness work. And as we know, Mauricio Pochettino will get this squad suffering. So I like the fact that tons of players, as we could see through their social media, were getting ready, getting prepared for pre-season under Pochettino. I'd imagine guys like your Sterlings, Jameses and many others, they know players that have been taught by Pochettino, so I'm sure they got some insight and some understandings behind how to prepare for life under this guy. And I'm actually really excited to see what Pochettino does. I feel like the way that he plays football, high energy, high pressing, molding a young squad with great potential like this too. Hopefully the sky is the limit because we're signing tons of great young guys, and as we can see right now, there's going to be tons of hopes pinned around Andre Santos. Now, we've known for a while that the club have big plans around him. They tried everything in their power to bring him into the squad from last season. But now that Mason Mount is gone, there's an opportunity here for Andre Santos now to really assert himself for this season. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses. Of course, similar things for Cesare Casade, and another player I have my eyes on is Ian Maatsen. Now, we know that Cucurella could be sold if the right offer comes in. Fingers crossed, who knows. Currently, we've priced him out from a move from signing for Burnley. We won around 25 million, and I feel like with Maatsen, his talent, what he brings, what he does, I'm hoping that he can impress and kind of make people notice him in pre-season, because I feel like it would be a massive loss to lose out on a guy like this, because I feel like this guy can be a top left back or wing back in the future. But of course, we are getting closer and closer to our first pre-season games. Of course, our first game is against Wrexham on the 17th this month. And then after that, we continue our US tour against teams like Newcastle, Brighton and much more. So you guys know, I'm going to cover all the games, all the pre-season news, and make sure you guys stay with me on BlueLionsTV. But before we get into anything, as you guys might realize, today we have officially announced the 23-24 training gear for next season. And I can't lie, seeing the players now wearing our new stuff, it's not looking too bad, right? The black and white is very bold with the gold accents as bold too. A lot of people are quite hyped by this latest release. A lot of people are liking the designs. So if you are seeing anything that takes your fancy, if you guys want to see the collection for yourself, there will be a link below in the description. If you use it and buy anything from the site, use my discount code NINI10 to get 10% off your final order, and I'm here to help you guys out. So that is the latest news around pre-season. And now, let's move on to discussing a breaking story over this past 24 hours. But currently, there is tons of news circling around Flamengo wonder kid in Matheus Franca. Now, he's 19 years old. He's Brazilian. He's extremely versatile. He can play anywhere between the lines. He can play as a 10, play on the right. He can play in midfield as well too. And he's also done shifts at wingback. He had tons of interest from Prem clubs last January. Nottingham Forest, teams like Palace, West Ham and Newcastle were unsuccessful with the bid made. And right now, we are looking to sign Matheus Franca, not for our network clubs, but to sign him for our first team. Now, as we understand, we're looking for profiles in the market that are able to have that positional flexibility, that can play as 10s, that can play midfield, and most importantly, can be an option on the right hand side as well too. Now, he signed a new contract with Flamengo in 2022, and there was an 83 million release clause inserted in that deal. But it seems like Flamengo want around 25 million euros to let this deal get finalized, but we're hoping to only go as far as 20 million. Now, Flamengo understand that Frank and his agent, who's Bertolucci, they already understand that they've been preparing for him to make a move in the summer. They're not going to hold him back, so things are looking very optimistic at this point in time. Now under Bertolucci, you know, Franca is part of the same agency as players like Andre Santos, as our new signing too in Angelo Gabriel, and of course some former players like Luis, Oscar, Kennedy, etc, etc. Now Matheus has been on our radar ever since he's been playing youth team football, and that's for good reason, because growing up he's received tons of like personal accolades and awards for his like representation for the international Brazilian youth team, and that's where he started to gain his reputation. But of course we aren't the only club that have shown interest. Now Man City were also heavily scouting the player as well too. Teams like Lyon were there, plus a host of Premier League clubs. Now we currently have an advantage on our side because we've done a ton of business with Bertolucci over the years, and as it's currently understood, Franca is not training with the Flamengo first team. Right now, Bertolucci is acting on our behalf. He is basically holding negotiations for us. And right now, there is a €5 million difference between the 25 million Flamengo want and the 20 million we hope to sign him for. So once an official offer has been finalized and agreed upon, then Franca will be made aware. And then after that, he can negotiate with us and then we can sign him. So very surprising news. Of course, when I first heard this last night, I was assuming that this was for the network clubs, but you might be asking, why Franca? And to be honest with you, I think this kid looks like a phenomenal talent. And there's one thing about his game, or two things about his game, which I think makes him like a really, really fascinating player. Number one, he's ambidextrous. He's equally good with his left foot and his right foot. I mean, this guy can cut inside with his left foot and right foot. He can take shots with your foot. He can play passes with your feet. And when you're playing like that, it makes it very hard for opponents to predict your next move. So, I mean, to have that type of skill and ability as a teenager, that's like that separation right there. And for his second quality, like this guy has a phenomenal understanding of space. Now, I'm going to give you guys very quickly the dictionary football reason behind what space means. And essentially, it's, the time duration with which space manifests itself. The space in football is the part of the pitch in which a player who owns or receives a ball develops his activity so he can effectively manipulate it with or without minimal opposition. So I know that's sounding like some physics textbook answer, but it simply means this: how does a player maximize the area of space that he has for himself? Is your body orientation open so you can help play the ball forward faster? Are you in the right positions on the field to disrupt the opposition shape? Can you read your marker behind you and spin him before he can press you? Do you release the ball early when the option is open? Can you make space for others? Etc, etc. And it's how Franca thinks that really elevates his technical capacities, because this guy is literally probably the type of player we should sign if ever replacing the Mason Mount, because not only is he like 6 foot, he's got the frame. So when this guy is dribbling on either foot, he has the ability to also hold off markers and actually protect the ball. And I think this is going to allow him to play in the Premier League because physically he is quite developed at 19 years old. Now off the ball, this guy is no slouch. This guy will kickstart the press. He will win possession in the opposition's half. And you have to think this complements what Pochettino wants, because we're going to be like a counter-pressing team. We need players that are going to win those tackles and second balls, all those types of balls to help us win the midfield battle. So this gives me more confidence that this guy can hack the intensity of the Premier League. And on top of this too, he's a very accurate shooter. He's got great striking technique. He ranks in the 90th percentiles for many types of shots in game. And, I know he hasn't scored as many goals yet, but it does tell you that there's a lot more to come from his finishing ability as time goes on. Now in terms of his passing, this guy can really switch the play and change the direction of attacks. I think that's a really useful skill to have. I mean, not only is he good in short, medium and long distances, but he plays those creative balls in behind. He does a lot of back heel flicks because he can read the game around him really well. And, of course, he has the skill set and the flair, of course, to fool opponents. And you have to think that when we're playing on the breakaway under Pochettino, we're going to need players in our team that are capable to play those through balls in behind, to find those guys making those line-breaking runs. And on top of that too, the guy's blessed with the 5 stars. I mean, some of the skills this guy pulls off, some of the ability, in tight spaces, over distances. He looks incredibly exciting. And for this type of price, it suits the new model, right? Where we don't want to overspend for guys, where we feel like we can sign talents for affordable fees and prices. And obviously, if you're signing Franca, his wages compared to maybe like a Kudus or someone else is going to be dramatically lower than a European counterpart. So maybe that's the thinking behind this move. Still though, this kid is looking extremely exciting, and it's looking like we're hoping to get this deal done and dusted right now, so maybe beat competition in the future. You know, I'm looking at the team, I'm looking at your Enzos, Andre Santos, Casado. There's a lot of Latin influence right now. It's really giving like first time playing Football Manager. Let me sign every like Brazilian and South American talent that my scouts are recommending. But obviously, you know, it's still really exciting. We're signing great young talents, and it's all about getting these guys playing together, which will be the important thing. So that's all the latest news behind Matheus Franca. How do you guys find him? Let us know below. And right now, let's end things very quickly with two updates. We discussed the latest updates around Diogo Costa. Now, we've got a bit more news, and as we know, this week, both clubs, us and of course FC Porto, were set to hold talks over Costa, and we've got some confirmation behind those talks. So it seems like now that we've sold Edouard Mendy, we are desperate now to sign a new goalkeeper. I feel like this thing about Kepa and a number 2 is complete cap, and I don't understand why someone would sign for us as a number 2 when there's options to be a first choice keeper elsewhere. So I'm not expecting that to happen. And right now we have Jorge Mendes on our side acting as our representative, as well as Porto to try and help broker a deal. Now typically during early parts of a deal, right, that's the most annoying stage. Now of course, we're hoping that we can sign him for less than the €75 million release clause. But unfortunately, that might not be the case because FC Porto are adamant that not only do they want big money for Diogo Costa, but you have to buy his full release clause in one go. And that's clearly not going to happen, because if we can't sign him for less, we're more open to structuring the deal over time in really good payment installments. So it comes down to how desperate FC Porto actually get. Right now, there's no competition for Costa, and Costa is ready now for the next step, and he wants to come into the Premier League, and he's excited by proposals. So I do feel like being able to secure one of the, you know, potential like top 5 keepers in Europe, this could be phenomenal business on our part. But before I end things, I want to quickly say this, one disclaimer. I've been saying in recent videos covering the story that there was a clause in his contract which activated, which meant that his release clause is now €100 million. Since then, it's now been debunked. Yesterday, I found out that those reports were inaccurate. So I just want to let you guys know that it's still 75 million. And we continue, of course, to have more talks and hopefully find a breakthrough. And quick reports around Christian Pulisic. As we know, AC Milan, Lyon are the main 2 clubs after him. Lyon made a 25 million offer, but we rejected that because there were tons of like future clauses which we didn't feel confident Lyon could actually satisfy. And obviously we're not going to accept that. It doesn't help too that Christian Pulisic is not interested in signing for Lyon. He prefers to go to AC Milan, but we've rejected their bid of 50 million. We want 25 million to sell Christian Pulisic, but it's believed that Milan now are ready to come back to make a new offer because they really want to add him to their team. And to be honest, I can imagine him playing on the right hand side and maybe having some good success playing in Serie A. Pulisic has agreed personal terms with AC Milan already, so it's all about finding a full fee now. And I hope that we find the right fee because obviously he's on big wages here. We don't necessarily need him anymore. So I'm sure an agreement is very, very close, but I'll always think that it's a shame that we never saw Pulisic, you know, fulfilling his potential here. I think some things worked against him as well, but I'll share those thoughts later on when we have more reports around the story. So my friends, they are the latest reports that came out today. How do you feel about Franca? Like, really give me your thoughts and opinions behind this. Like, are you guys getting Wonder Kid vibes? Like, this guy's looking quite special, no? So let me know below. And on that note, I'm in the FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.